Audrey Hepburn was more than a movie star. She was an ideal, a paradox, fragile yet unbreakable, luminous yet quietly human. Born on May 4, 1929, in Brussels, Belgium, she grew up under the shadow of war, surviving the Nazi occupation and enduring hunger that would shape her compassion for the rest of her life. When the world later fell in love with her eyes, her elegance, and that impossible gentleness, few realized how much strength had been forged behind that serenity. By the 1950s, Audrey had transformed into one of Hollywood's most recognizable faces, starring in Roman Holiday Breakfast, at Tiffany's Sabrina, and My Fair Lady. Yet, even as she ascended into cinematic immortality, she quietly began crafting a different story, one not written by studios or fashion designers, but by the choices of her heart. Behind the camera, Audrey was a woman who valued family above fame, simplicity above spectacle, and humanity above everything else. She fell in love twice, both times, with men who shared her artistic sensibilities, but not always her quiet nature. From those marriages came two sons, Sean Hepburn Ferrer and Luca Dotti, who would grow up as witnesses not just to her stardom, but to her grace in the truest sense of the word. Through them, the essence of Audrey Hepburn, the compassion, discipline, and unshakable kindness, would endure long after her final curtain call. This is the story of the woman the world saw as a goddess, and of the sons who knew her as simply Mum. Number 2. Sean Hepburn Ferrer was born on July 17, 1960, in Lucerne, Switzerland, to Audrey Hepburn and actor-director Mel Ferrer. He entered a world balanced between art and elegance, between two parents bound by creativity, yet divided by temperament. His father was precise, intense, and ambitious. His mother radiant and self-contained, a woman who seemed to belong to everyone, yet desired only the quiet rhythm of family. To the public, Audrey Hepburn was the embodiment of beauty. To Sean, she was the gentle force who made the extraordinary seem ordinary. Sean's earliest memories were of movement, Paris film sets, New York apartments, and the quiet countryside of Switzerland, where Audrey sought refuge from Hollywood's chaos. While she dazzled on screen, she never allowed her fame to overshadow her role as a mother. "She was never an actress at home," Sean once said. "She was just my mother. She cooked, she cleaned, she listened." When Audrey and Mel divorced in 1968, Sean was 8. His mother did not let heartbreak define her. Instead, she transformed her energy into purpose, choosing to raise him with discipline and compassion, often shielding him from the turbulence of her celebrity. As an adult, Sean stepped into the creative world, not to mimic his mother's stardom, but to honor her artistry. He became a producer, author, and guardian of her legacy. His 2003 biography, Audrey Hepburn, An Elegant Spirit, is among the most intimate portraits ever written about her, a testament written not by an admirer, but by a son who understood the person beneath the icon. Through his words, he revealed a mother whose perfection was not performance, but intention, who balanced kindness with resilience and humility with unspoken strength. Sean later helped establish the Audrey Hepburn Children's Fund, continuing her humanitarian work with UNICEF, where she had devoted her final years to helping children in famine-stricken countries. He worked tirelessly to preserve her image, not as a fashion figure, but as a humanitarian whose greatest role was compassion. Now, in his 60s, Sean lives a life steeped in reflection, still guided by the quiet grace that defined his mother. If Audrey Hepburn gave the world beauty, Sean gave the world her truth. Through him, the legend breathes not in diamonds or dresses, but in deeds and decency, a living continuation of her most enduring legacy. Number 1. Luca Dotti. Luca Dotti was born on February 8, 1970, in Lausanne, Switzerland, the son of Audrey Hepburn and Italian psychiatrist Andrea Dotti. By the time Luca arrived, Audrey had stepped away from the relentless machinery of Hollywood. She had already won her Oscars, conquered the stage, and left behind a trail of timeless performances. But with Luca's birth, she chose something different: anonymity, serenity, and motherhood unshared with the world. For the first time, she could live without playing a part. Audrey's marriage to Luca Dotti began as a promise of calm after years of constant travel and publicity. But while she sought stability, her husband found the glamour of Rome irresistible. Their marriage gradually frayed under the weight of infidelity and distance. Through it all, Audrey's focus remained on her young son. She moved between Rome and Switzerland, determined to protect Luca from the chaos that had often surrounded her own life. Luca grew up not in the glow of stardom, but in its gentle afterlight. His memories of his mother are not of fame, but of laughter in the garden books at bedtime and meals cooked with care. He would later recall that Audrey taught him empathy through small acts, how to speak softly, listen fully, and always see the person behind the story. When Audrey died of cancer in January 1993, Luca was just 22. The loss was devastating, but it became his quiet calling to ensure that the world remembered her, not merely as a face on a poster, but as a woman of substance. In adulthood, Luca became an author and the chairman of the Audrey Hepburn Children's Fund, working alongside his half-brother Sean to continue her humanitarian legacy. His book, Audrey at Home 2015, offered an intimate glimpse into the woman behind the legend, her recipes, her humor, her values. Through his writing, Luca preserved the domestic grace that the public never saw Audrey barefoot in the kitchen, humming to herself, content in the simplicity of motherhood. Today, Luca lives in Switzerland with his family, a man who has inherited not the fame, but the gentleness of Audrey Hepburn. In him lives the essence of her quiet philosophy that life's beauty lies not in performance, but in kindness. Luca Dotti is not the heir to her image. He is the guardian of her soul. Audrey Hepburn's legacy was never built on power or perfection. It was built on grace, the quiet, unyielding kind that leaves a mark long after applause fades. She lived not to dominate screens, but to dignify life, to show that elegance without empathy is hollow. Her two sons, Sean and Luca, inherited not her fame, but her essence. Through them, Audrey's story continues to breathe, not as nostalgia, but as living proof that gentleness can outlast glamour. Sean became the keeper of her truth. In his films, books, and foundation work, he transformed admiration into action, revealing the woman who cooked for her friends, cried over lost children, and carried the memory of war like a scar. She turned into compassion. He ensured that Audrey's name would be forever linked not only to Givenchy gowns and Roman streets, but to the children she held in famine camps, the lives she touched in silence. Luca became the keeper of her warmth. In Audrey at Home, he resurrected the simplicity of her private world meals, shared jokes told, and love expressed through ordinary kindness. He reminds us that the real Audrey was not a goddess, but a mother who believed that beauty begins with thoughtfulness. Together, her sons built an invisible monument, a legacy of tenderness where celebrity dissolves into humanity. Audrey Hepburn's life was short, but her reach is infinite. Through Sean and Luca, her message endures that true success is not measured by applause, but by the quiet difference one makes in the lives of others. She taught her sons, and by extension, the world, that the most luminous thing a person can be is kind. And in that lesson, she remains immortal.